Welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. We're just setting up for today's event. We're going to put on a 30-second timer. As you join us, please type in where you're watching us from today. And this is your cue to make sure if anyone you've invited on is online right now. Beautiful. We can see people who've logged on from Ontario, Canada, Florida, USA, Calgary. What do we got? Happy Bay in New Zealand. Wonderful. Deerfield, Florida. I think that's Kenya, Jakarta, New Zealand. Indonesia, and Perth, Western Australia. And I'm from the beautiful Sunshine Coast. So welcome online, ladies and gentlemen. What we're going to do for those people who don't speak fluent English, we're just going to quickly play something that'll show you can read along with closed captions here in the Zoom room as well as on YouTube. So have a quick listen to this.
Por favor, vaya a la parte inferior de la pantalla en Zoom o YouTube y haga clic en subtítulos para leer en español.
Kérlek menjünk képernyő aljára, a Zoomon vagy a YouTube-on, a Closed Caption részre, és ott el tudod olvasni magyarul a feliratot.
Silakan klik di layar bawah pada Zoom atau YouTube dan klik caption untuk membaca dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Pour les sous-titres en français, veuillez cliquer au bas de votre écran Zoom ou YouTube sur CC ou Closed Captions.
Zoom または YouTube の画面の下部に移動し、字幕をクリックして日本語で読んでください。
請到屏幕底部點閱隱藏字幕以閱讀中文。
Παρακαλώ πηγαίνετε στο κάτω μέρος της οθόνης, στο Zoom ή στο YouTube και κάντε κλικ στους υπόλοιπους για να τα διαβάσετε στα ελληνικά.
請到屏幕底部點擊隱藏字幕以閱讀中文.
אנא עברו לתחתית המסך בזום וביוטיוב ולחצו על תרגום לכתוביות בעברית.
Proszę zejść na dół ekranu na Zoomie lub YouTubie i kliknąć napisy, żeby przeczytać
Oops. Muted.
Thank you, Steve. I love the fact that we're in so many different countries and I'm just changing my language to English for those people with closed captions. Ladies and gentlemen, today is a special day of the week because we have our opportunity to meet up and close and personal our founder, Steve Scott. For those of you who don't know, Neumi was started by Steve Scott. Steve was behind the Total Gym with Christy Brinkley and Chuck Norris, as well as many other brands with pretty much every personality known to man. Hugely successful. I met Steve, my beautiful friend, 17 years ago when he was pioneering the research space in glutathione. And we're a very unusual company in that we're more of a family. And so we love you to get to know our founder because he's not in some ivory tower. He's here to meet the people up close and personal. So with that, I'll hand you to Steve.
Thank you, Michael. And we normally, in this time period, we have always done a technology where I explain glutathione, I explain our technology, and I'll do a little bit of that, but let's save time for questions today because our group is a little bit smaller, which means there might be time for questions. So as I talk, or if you've had any questions come up, maybe somebody you are, here I got to change my language from Chinese to English. Maybe you've had people ask you questions that you can't answer. We don't answer medical questions. You know, if you say, well, I've got bursitis, what does it do for bursitis? We can't tell you if it does anything or not because that's a medical question. But we can answer normal questions. I can answer questions about the business. I can answer questions about business in general. I can answer questions about the science, glutathione, and I can answer questions about our technology, so long as I don't touch on any of our secrets, because we do protect our technology as a trade secret, but we patent our formulas. So we don't care if the world sees our formulas because they can't create the size of particle that we can. And without getting that size of particle, the formula won't work. So we do patent the formulas, but we don't patent our actual hydrostat technology for good reason. Well, a little bit about my background is I graduated from college before many of you were born in 1970. And I graduated with a degree in marketing. How do you get products to consumers? How do you make them want your products and so on? And I thought I was going to go out and burn up the turf and be real successful as an advertising marketing guy, only to find out that wasn't how life worked. In my first 6 years after college, I flunked out of 9 jobs. And it wasn't because I wasn't trying. In fact, after I lost my 5th job, I was talking to my best friend and mentor, a guy named Gary Smalley, and he was visiting me from Chicago. I lived in Phoenix, Arizona. And Gary was the wisest man I knew. I never met anybody that had the kind of wisdom that Gary had. He was 8 years older than me. And I said, Gary, I don't understand. No matter what I do, I cannot succeed. I said, I know I'm not stupid. I have a good IQ. I know I'm not lazy. I'm first in, last out. Even with the companies that had as many as 3,000 or 4,000 employees, I was not only not late, I was always there. The only people that would be there sooner or leave later than me were the people in security, and that opened up the building and secured it overnight. So I'm not lazy, and I understand my craft, which is marketing and consumer behavior, consumer psychology, but I can't succeed. I was losing jobs about every 6 months. I only was earning half of the average wage earner in America, so I couldn't succeed. And I said, Gary, I don't know what to do. And Gary said, very wisely, he didn't say, okay, here's what you need to do, A, B, C, D. That's called shooting from the hip. And you should be very careful about people who give advice shooting from the hip, just mouthing it off, not real wise on your part. But Gary did the most wise thing I'd ever heard for somebody that was asked an important question. And this wasn't really an important question. It was me. I had a wife and 1 child at the time, and I couldn't even hardly pay the rent. And so he said, let me pray about it. And the next day he comes into our little living room and he said, hey, I found the answer. And I'm real ADD, so I'd forgotten the question. I said, answer to what? He said, why you haven't succeeded, how you could succeed. I said, really? He said, yeah, how would you like to be wiser than all your bosses? Now, I was only 26 years old, and that sounded a little crazy to me. And he said, how would you like to be wiser than all your bosses? I said, yeah, right. And he said, no, there's something you can do. You can do it for 2 years. In 2 years, you'll be wiser than all your bosses. And in 5 years, you'll probably be a millionaire. And that was really ridiculous. It made me chuckle, because the only reason we had breakfast that morning was some women in a Bible study that I taught had anonymously left groceries on my doorstep. So had that not happened, we had no money for food. I had been out of work for about 4 weeks, and we had no savings. So we were broke. Anyway, he said, yeah, do it for 2 years. In 2 years, you'll be wiser than all your bosses. In 5 years, you'll probably be a millionaire. And I said, okay, what do I do? And he said, 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs in the Bible, 31 days in the month. Every day, read the chapter of the day. So like today, I would read chapter 27 of Proverbs. And he said, have pencil and paper in hand and write down the wisdom and insights that you gain and begin to apply those to your work. He said, do that for 2 years. It'll take you through the book of Proverbs 24 times. And I promise you that it will change everything. Well, I started to do that, and I did that for the next 18 months. And I went through the book of Proverbs roughly 18 times. And maybe I wasn't quite as diligent as that, but I went through it a lot of times. And I found these amazing strategies in Proverbs that nobody had ever taught me. And so then all I needed was a mentor who could actually teach me the skill sets to apply those strategies. For example, one of them was, a wise man trains his mouth and adds persuasiveness to his lips. So the strategy has become let's see, an effective and persuasive communicator. That's the strategy. But now I need the skill sets. How do you do that? Well, Gary happened to be one of my mentors, and Gary was the most effective communicator I'd ever seen. I had seen him in crowds of thousands of people, having people hanging on every word. Can't wait to hear what he's going to say next. Laugh out of control, cry at times. He was amazing. He was truly the most amazing communicator I'd ever heard in my lifetime. And so he taught me not 400, not 40, 4 communication techniques that changed everything. Communication became one of my great skill sets. In fact, using what I learned from Gary, in the years that followed, I generated over 40 million telephone calls. People responding to the 2-minute commercials that I wrote and produced for the products that my company owned, because we started a business in 1976. I started with a man who had $5,000, and I had a vision for a particular product. And we went on the air, or we actually started the company in May of 1976, and we went on the air in a rollout in November of 76. And our sales were $1 million a week. And that's when houses cost $30,000 in the United States, was the average home. And so that was a lot of money. And a matter of a year later, we were doing a couple million, $2 or $3 million a week. And so life completely changed because of these strategies that I found. Now, the most important strategy for me for business was one that we incorporate here at Neumi. It's called effective partnering. Nobody in history, and I've gone through hundreds of biographical sketches and so on, no one in history has ever achieved anything extraordinary by themselves. They've always learned how to effectively partner. Now, most partnerships fail. 90% of all partnerships fail within 2 years. Why? Because they're ineffective partnering. But effective partnering takes the ceiling off of opportunity, takes the ceiling off of your ability to achieve extraordinary outcomes, and it brings tremendous safety. It reduces risk and increases potential when you effectively partner. But nobody teaches the world how to do that. People discovered on their own. Bill Gates partnered with a guy named, what was his name? Pilot. He became a pilot. I can think of Steve Ballmer, who they later partnered with, but Paul Allen. Steve Jobs partnered with a guy named Steve Wolinsky or something like that. Thomas Jefferson partnered with a few other founders of the American Constitution. It's amazing. I went clear back pre-Revolutionary War all the way through the beginning of the United States, and then the Industrial Revolution, then ultimately the communication and technology age, and everybody partnered. And the people that effectively partnered, man, they shot for the moon and they hit it. The people who ineffectively partnered may have shot for the moon and they missed it. So here at Neumi, we encourage partnering. Everybody in Neumi has an upline, somebody that brings you in. You have a downline, even if it's only 2 or 3 people you bring in, and people that they bring in, the people that you bring in, and you all have sidelines. And you also have a corporate team that wants you to be successful and wants to supply you with all the things you need to succeed. That's effective partnering. And it really works when you do it consistently. That's one of the 15 strategies I found in the book of Proverbs. It says, In a multitude of counselors, there's success. But without counsel, you will fail. Counsel is another word for partnering. There's another verse that says, in a multitude of counselors, there's safety. But without counsel, you will fall. You know, falls are never planned. They always happen accidentally. And falls always bring about injury and hurt. It might just be a scrape on your knee, might be your life. You know, here in the United States, about 43,000 people die from car accidents every year. Okay. No accident is planned. It's all an accident. Well, Proverbs tells us that if you effectively partner, you'll find safety. Do you know, I personally, by the time I retired, our company had done billions of dollars in sales, billions with a B. And all of the partners, by the time I retired after 35 years, there were 6 partners. And each of us had made tens of millions of dollars in personal income. All that from a guy that couldn't succeed no matter how hard he tried. That's the value of getting wisdom. That's the value of learning strategies that work. One of the strategies was become an effective and persuasive communicator. Another one was learn how to effectively partner, how to avoid the wrong kinds of partners. You know, Proverbs gives you 7 red flags. And if you see any of those red flags in a partner, you can be their friend, you can like them, you can have them over for dinner, you can encourage them and give them hope and help, but don't intertwine yourself with them. For example, if a person doesn't have integrity, it says if you partner with a thief, it's worse than a broken tooth or a foot out of joint. Now think back to the last time you had a toothache. Could you think of anything else other than that toothache? Were you lazy about maybe I'll get some help? Man, you have a toothache like I've had, you want to get help instantly. And man, I run right to the endodontist, get a root canal because I've got a great endodontist and they always work me in on emergencies and I feel better right away. But man, when that root canal is really hurting or when that nerve is really hurting, I can't work. I can't think. I can't be a good husband or a good dad. I got to get it fixed. Well, now imagine a foot's out of joint. How are you going to walk? You're going to walk to the car? Not without help. You're going to walk out of the car into a building? Not without help. I mean, just even touching it sends pain all the way up through your leg into your back. You don't want that, a foot out of joint. Well, that's what we can expect when we partner with someone who doesn't have integrity. I made tens of millions of dollars by partnering with the right people and having an effective partnership. I lost many millions, over $15 million personally. I had to earn 30 million to bank 15, and I lost that 15 what? In bad partnerships. And I knew after the fact, it's like, what happened? And then I see, oh my gosh, this guy always flattered me. Do you know, we love praise, and praise is a good thing. Praise is when you are, somebody congratulates you with words. Wow, great job for something you've done. Flattery is when they say something, oh, you're so handsome. Well, you didn't have a lot to do with that. Maybe you took care of yourself a little better, but you know what? A lot of it's genetic. A lot of it is how we've cared for ourselves, but a lot of it's genetics. When it says that the flatterer is spreading a net for your feet. Now imagine walking along, all of a sudden you're on a neck and whoop, the net goes up. Guess what? You're trapped. You're trapped in that net. So you don't partner with a flatterer. If someone gives you true words of praise and sincerely means it, boy, we really needed help and you came through right at the right time. Thank you for that. That was really vital and a blessing. That's praise. Praise is great. Flattery's not. So Proverbs warns us about that. So here at Neumi, we want to effectively partner with our Neumi family. We want to support you, encourage you. We have a compensation plan that's one of the most generous. We pay out over 50% of our total revenues go out in commissions. We set it up that way for a reason. We want to bless people. We know people have a hard time financially. We didn't have to do that. In fact, the people that we work with to create the computer systems and so on to pay out those commissions, they said, "What are you doing? You're giving away way too much. You guys will never succeed giving away that much because the industry average is a lot lower than that. The industry average is right around 37 or 38%. And we said, no, we manufacture the product so we have more room. If we were having to buy it from another manufacturer, the cost would be up here and we couldn't offer that. But because our cost is down here, we manufacture in our own facility. We can control the quality that way. We have a novel process the rest of the world doesn't have. And it allows us to have room. So that means we can lower the price and keep it low. We're lower than any of our competitors by far. But it also means there's room for a more generous commission. And that's what we do at Neumi. We give that more generous. In fact, when we had our first commission run, and my son Ryan, we had a very tiny company in the beginning, and my son Ryan was with me. And I said, "What was our payout?" He said, "Dad, it was around 43%. And I said, "Ryan, that's not enough. You work on it right now. I want you to work out. Call Alex Monterosa, call Michael Firth, call our compensation people. I want to raise that at least 5 points, at least 5 points." Well, they went ahead, they huddled, and Ryan called them back. Afterwards, he called the people that set up the software to pay out commissions. And he says, "Okay, here's our new plan. And our payout's going to be 50%. And the guy said, "You guys are nuts. Nobody ever does that. Everybody wants to always cut down what they pay out, not pay out more." And I said to Ryan, I said, "Listen, you tell that guy I've been to the Philippines. I've been in countries where people don't know where their next meal is coming from. And I want to get that out. They're here in the United States, hey, you'll find another job. But in much of the world, that extra $100 a week, extra $100 a month, that means something. That's the difference between eating 3 meals in a day and eating 1 meal in a day or not eating at all. It's the difference between sleeping on cement for your kids or sleeping on a mattress in a lot of parts of the world." So we went ahead, we did that, and God has blessed us. We're now in 75 countries, and people are doing well. People that work a little bit make a little bit. People that work hard make more. People that get creative, people that go the extra mile, they tend to do better. But you have partners in our company. Now, what did we really bring to the table? Part of the success of my former company that we started, American Telecast, in 1976, was that I always found breakthrough products that were such a breakthrough that I could recruit nationally renowned and world-renowned celebrities. I mean, my gosh, I had Moses and Ben-Hur in one project because I had Charlton Heston. He had won an Academy Award, movie star, Academy Award for Ben-Hur, and he had won before that an Academy Award playing Moses in the Ten Commandments. And he was one of my spokespersons. I had Cher. I had All-American or All-Pro Hall of Fame athletes like Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw. I had big movie stars. I had TV stars. I had recording stars like Sharon, Kenny Rogers. How could I get those people? I got them not because I wrote them a big check for $1 million right away or anything. Some of them made millions, but that wasn't what they got up front. They had to walk in for practically nothing. But they could see the breakthrough. We had a breakthrough that would help kids get better grades. You get better grades, guess what? And you learn better, you get into college, you get better grades, you get into graduate school or into a profession that really helps. And we found a product called Where There's a Will, There's an A that was life-changing for millions of people. In fact, in your country, wherever you are, have you ever seen the Under Armour symbol on hats, on clothes, on jackets, on shoes? Under Armour, big worldwide brand, one of the biggest in the world. Guess what? That was because of Where There's a Will, There's an A. There was a struggling student named, he was the captain of the special teams of the University of Maryland in football. His name was Kevin Plank. And the coach showed the whole team over a period of a couple weeks, our entire seminar. And one of the things that the professor said was, if you want to be an entrepreneur, don't wait till you graduate from college. Start your own business while you're in college. So the football coach gave everybody an assignment, 60 players. He said, I want you to figure out a business you can start while you're here at the University of Maryland. You can partner with some of the guys, or you could do it on your own. But in 3 weeks, you're all going to tell everybody what you're going to be doing. Well, right before that day, Kevin comes into John Baxter's office and he says, Coach, I don't want to tell the team what I'm doing because they're my market. And John goes, really? What are you doing? He says, well, I have my shirts, my undershirts made out of my sister's slips. And they keep me warmer in the winter, cooler in the summer. And so I've got all the team sizes from the equipment room, and I'm going to make 3 shirts for each players. And I'm going to give them their first one free so they can try it. And I'm telling you, once you do a practice in a shirt made out of the material that my sister's slips are made out, you won't play in cotton. From that point on, man, that's the only undershirt you want. He goes, really? He says, yeah. And John says, well, that's a great idea, but Kevin, you can't call your company My Sister's Slips. He said, no, Coach, I've got a good name. He said, well, what are you going to call it? He says, I'm going to call it Under Armour. And that's how we got Under Armour. Okay. Now, why do I share that? Because before Where There's a Will, There's an A, before they saw that, Kevin would have never thought of that. And if he would, he wouldn't have had a plan he did it in college. And his plan was if it worked, when he graduated from college that spring, he was going to go to other colleges and do the same thing. Well, needless to say, and that is what we call a legacy business. When we taught people how to get better grades, it changed their lives. Kids that could have never made it into college got into college. People that would have never graduated. We had people we interviewed that had low IQs, D's and F's in college. They weren't going to even make it through their freshman year. They took the course and they went to A's and B's. Okay, that changed their life. People got into graduate schools because of this. Their whole lives changed because of one 3.5-hour seminar on videotape. And we had one for college kids, high school kids, one for junior high. And it was life-changing. Well, once you change one life, what happens? Kevin Plank has employed tens of thousands of people throughout the world to create merchandise because of one product. Where there's a will, there's an A. Because of one man, John Baxter, who became a good friend of mine, forced his team. They didn't want to watch this video series. The professor was real boring, but he had great skill sets and techniques that he taught. And it changed life. Well, my formula that allowed us to sell billions of dollars worth of products in a lot of different industries find a breakthrough product. The product that we've turned over to our Neumi family is the biggest breakthrough I have had in my lifetime. And that's where we start. A product that can change human performance, a product that can change human health, a product that can accelerate healing from injuries, a product that impacts every cell, every tissue, every organ, every joint, every bone of your body, a product that good. For example, we have on our medical board, if you look at our medical board at your website, and Michael, you might grab a picture of that if you're still here, you can show us, our brilliant, in some cases, world-renowned scientists and doctors, and they all serve for free, just like me. Why do they serve for free? Because they've seen the impact of our product on the world. You can go to the Neumi website, go to About Us, and go to Meet the Science Team, and here's what'll come out. Okay, now let's just talk about a few of these. Doug Harrington, world-renowned pathologist, hematologist. He has brought over 200 technologies to the medical world in cardiovascular therapies and in cancer therapies. Brilliant. He was on the Stanford Heart Transplant, a professor at University of Southern California. Amazing, amazing scientist and doctor. And I talk to him regularly. I've known him for, I don't know, 15 years now, and just brilliant. Gordon Crozier in genetic medicine. Annie Varghese, an incredible cardiologist, graduated at the top of her class. She has 5 practices, clinics in Houston, and she's opening another clinic in Dubai where a couple of her patients, including the royal family of Arab Emirates, will get help in cardiology. She's been practicing there. Now she's opening a clinic. Let's go down a couple more, just one more I want to show. Now, Thomas Redner on the left, Harvard. He created the pain management program for Harvard Medical. Jim Ho is an MD and a PhD from the Mayo Clinic. That's pretty neat. Now, here's the guy that has my fire burning day and night right now. Sotiris Nikolopoulos. Try saying that 10 times. And I'm going to meet with him on May 8th and 9th in Greece. But he is a cellular scientist. His focus is on microbiology, cellular biology, mainly genetic expression, because everything in your body, health-wise, is to one degree or another impacted and sometimes a function of genetic expression. For example, there are 9 genes that he can measure with a unique technology that he alone has. Nobody else in the world has it. It'll be worldwide in a few years. But he can see genetic expression, and he takes 9 genes for inflammation. These are the genes that will determine if you're inflamed or not inflamed, highly inflamed, depending on disease states and so on, oxidative stress. Well, that genetic expression is really hard to impact because it's at the very base level of cellular health. It's at, honestly, it's a level that we've never really focused on, but it's been the focus of his life. His postdoctorate fellowship for 6 years was at Sloan Kettering, which is cancer research and cancer treatment, one of the top 2 cancer hospitals in the United States, and probably in the top 5 in the world, if not the top 2. Sloan Kettering in New York. That's where he did his postdoctoral fellowship, where he was looking at cells, looking at cancer cells, looking at human cells. I mean, the guy is brilliant beyond description. Well, he did a little test on a number of his clients that had been really struggling with issues driven by inflammation. Inflammation is oftentimes the gateway at the causal effect of human disease and illnesses. And and at the very base. And he had one lady that is in her 70s, and she's had a miserable life for the last few years, where her inflammatory genes were either overexpressed, underexpressed. Nothing they could do could bring them into control. Nothing. And he tried for 2 years. She got on NutraSwish, which is a supplement which increased the upregulation into the cells of glutathione, cysteine, and some other cofactors. And guess what happened? Her genetic profile normalized. The overexpressing genes came down to normal. The underexpressing genes came up to normal. And it happened in less than a month. That had never happened. He couldn't believe it. This woman, he has worked with this woman for 2 years to no avail. Was it our product? No, it's glutathione. But the glutathione was delivered to the cells by our product. Because we have a unique delivery system called hydrostat that nobody else in the world has, and it's a way we encapsulate molecules with water molecules to keep the particle size so tiny it'll absorb right through the mucosa, in the cheeks, venous cavity under the tongue, and even the esophagus on the way down to the stomach. And it's like I say, biggest breakthrough of my life. But now we realize we're impacting people at a genetic level. And he made the statement to me, I won't tell you the number, but it was a huge number. He said, I'm convinced you are impacting positively. And he told me how many genes. And it was mind-boggling. And that's his guess right now. We don't have proof. But the first 9 genes he tested it with, which were all inflammatory genes, it worked wonders. Not just in that lady, but other patients. And we can't tell you about that. Because we're not allowed to talk about medical conditions. We know that one of our doctors is Dr. Osorio in Spain. Now, he has about 25 sports medicine clinics in Europe and another few in the United States. And most of their clients are either professional athletes or world-class amateur athletes. You know what he discovered about our product? With conditioned runners. Why conditioned? Because they have a stable baseline that almost never changes. And guess what happened? Our product, when he would put a runner on our product, it would delay the onset of lactic acidosis by 16.7% on average, which would give a runner 2 additional kilometers before they would even start making lactic acid. So they not only perform better in the event, but they recover a lot faster because there's a lot less damage to the cells, because lactic acid damages the cells, muscle tissues, and so on. And I said, is 16.7% a good thing? He said, Steve, nothing in the world can delay the onset of lactic acidosis by 1%. He said, this is one of the biggest game changers I've ever seen in sports. None of our athletes that get on it, they give them out as sample, wants to get off it. They all want the product. Doesn't matter where they are, they want it, and they want it now. That's because it's a game changer. That's a breakthrough. That's what we have. Okay, at 6:41 here. You've been on the phone now for 40. Michael, if you've got any good questions people have texted.
We did, and just by the way,
you're muted
about the whole time until that last sentence you just said, but it's all good. I got the gist. So yeah, we had 6 questions. We've filtered through. Some questions in there are very medical, so we're not answering those. But first question is, what's the next product? We've heard rumors of hair.
We have a hair product in test. The results have been awesome. Awesome. We did a second iteration. Dr. Crozier wanted to see some other ingredients that he's focused on added to it. So we added, and now we have a second one in test, and people are raving about it. I'll tell you one thing that seems to be the common denominator. Their hair has more texture. Now, see, with someone like me, that's a big deal because my hair is real fine. My daughter, who's a blonde, has real fine hair. But anybody would like more texture. More texture means more manageability. It means a thicker, fuller look. And so, no, it's getting really positive reviews. Our survey goes out to the sample of people testing it. I think it's next week. But the original feedback has been very consistent and very good. So if it passes the test, we will be launching that. I'm not sure, but I think at our birthday party in July. That's our goal. So yeah, that's here. But that's only one thing we have on the drawing board, Michael. We are going really broad and really deep and getting incredible results. So what's another question?
Next question was, what's the extra benefits of using the NutraSwish and the Neuro product together?
Okay, NutraSwish is foundational. That is getting glutathione in your lung cells, your brain cells, your heart cells, your muscle cells. Every cell in your body wants more glutathione. Glutathione is the first line of defense against everything. It's the detoxifier of the cell. It is the protector of the cell against oxidative stress, which creates inflammation and accelerates the aging of the cell. Do you want to get older faster or stay younger longer? How about, do you want your brain to age more rapidly? Your heart, your lungs? No, we want to delay the onset and the progression of accelerated aging, and glutathione is the key. So you want to have NutraSwish as your base. Now, Neuro. I just hung up with my best friend, who was best friends with Gary and I until Gary died. But Jim Shaughnessy, he was driving all day today to Palm Springs for a wedding. And I said, how you doing? Because he's older than me. I'll be 77. Jim will be 79. And I'm turning 70. So Jim just turned 79. He's already had his birthday. And he said, man, I'm glad to get in the hotel and lay down. And I said, what, do you use NutraSwish? He said, no, I used Neural, and man, I was alert and focused the entire trip. He had several hundred miles, a few hundred miles to drive. And he said, I loved it. I was so alert and focused. I said, well, Jim, you take NutraSwish and that. And he goes, oh, really? I said, yeah, come on. I said, that's from the neck up. NutraSwish is from the neck down and the neck up. So it's an adjunct. It is an appendage. Some days I take it. Some days I don't need it. Actually, I get so much benefit. But if I'm going to sit in some boring committee meeting, you better believe I'll have my Neuro there because I need to wake up to get me through the boredom. Okay, another question?
All right. We hear that the Swish product is more effective than a glutathione IV. Why?
Okay, several reasons. Thank you. That's a great question. I love that one. And I'll tell you a story to go along with it. A surgeon, was on 3 glutathione IVs a week. He was performing plastic surgery 14 hours a day, 5 days a week. So he would get 3 IVs, $900 a week. And one of our Neumi family members told him about Swish. He didn't believe it, but he thought, what the heck, I'll try it. He went cold turkey off the IV, swished that day, and then he swished again when he started to fade a little bit. It was better, higher physical stamina, which he needs because he's standing up all day operating, and better mental focus. And if he started to drop even a little bit, he'd pour another capful, pop it in, and swish. And in 5 minutes, he's right back to where he was. And he loved that. Guess what he did? He never went back to IV. In fact, he had the guy who introduced him to it contact me, and he said, Steve, he promises to have his office at night after our hours filled with surgeons and doctors if you will come speak. So I flew to Miami, clear across country. He had 42 doctors in his office. And he gave his testimony. His head nurse gave her testimony, that's really all he needed. And then his wife gave her testimony. They didn't need to hear from me. but I gave them the science, the why it works the way it does. So you got to realize once glutathione gets in the cell, it has a half-life average of 90 minutes. And so with an IV, you get a 6-hour bang for the buck and then a 20 to 30-hour tail of pretty low potency. Are you going to spend another $300 the next day? 2 days later? No. Okay. Why not spend under $2 and just swish whenever you need it? I mean, start every day. I start every day at as soon as I wake up. Before I do anything, I go right to my bathroom counter. I pour it in the dosage cup, and then I start swishing. And I swish, I put my contacts in, I hold it still under my tongue while I'm putting my contacts in so I don't drop a contact. And then I start swishing again, and then I wash up, then I hit the shower. I'm still, because man, I want as much absorption as I can get. So I overdo it. I probably swish for 3 minutes. But the average person, 30 seconds or more is what they need. And so we beat the half-life, and IV glutathione takes longer to work. Why? Because it's in the blood for a long time, and the blood breaks it down into its 3 component parts, glycine, glutamic acid, and cysteine. That's what gets deposited into the cytoplasm. Then the cytoplasm in your cell has to rebuild glutathione molecules out of that. So it takes about 26 minutes before all that's done. With us, from the time we get into the bloodstream as you're swishing, it's out of the bloodstream according to one scientist at the University of Utah, nanoscientist, within 70 seconds. So much faster acting. Okay.
Beautiful segue to this next question I'm reading. Someone told me that liposomal glutathione molecule is too large to penetrate a cell. Is that true?
Yes. It's too, in fact, that's the first thing that the genetic doctor, the first thing he noticed. He was on the most expensive liposomal glutathione he could find, which was in Europe, out of Germany. And he would take that, and maybe he felt something, maybe he didn't. And then he took ours, and whoa, he felt it. He really felt it. And it completely changed how he went through his day for the next week or so, doing it every day. And so then he looked into our technology and our particle size. When I told him our particle size, what we're doing, the average cell is only 100 nanometers, which a strand of hair is 80,000 nanometers, to put it in perspective. So 100 nanometers, and the pore to enter that cell is 10 nanometers. Well, a liposome, the smallest you can get them, is over 50 nanometers. So it sits on top of the cell, and some of it will get in the cell through what's called forced diffusion, pressure from other things forcing it somewhat into the cytoplasm rather than entering through the pore of the cell. And he said there's no comparison. He said this is what the genetic doctor said, Dr. Nikolopoulos. He said there's no comparison. He says you've made liposomal delivery obsolete overnight. This is so much bigger than what you're doing right now. You have no idea. I know what you have, and it is huge, inestimable. So 2
more questions, and we've got 9 minutes till the hour. So this one's interesting because I could answer this from a personal perspective, but I'd rather you did. If you're introducing the swish and the spray to people who might have a sulfur allergy, where they do experience a rash from sulfur drugs, is this product safe? And before you answer, Steve, I can tell everybody I have a sulfur allergy and I have had no problems myself, but I'm not suggesting that's an answer for all.
Right. If you were allergic to the sulfur in glutathione, you'd be dead before you were born. Every cell in your body is already producing it. You come out and start screaming for air, and guess what? All those cells are working because they have lots of glutathione, more than you have right now. And so, no. Now, if it is possible to have an allergic reaction to something, you might have an allergic reaction to a preservative or the vitamin C, which is acidic in the product. And an allergic reaction to that may be a little sore on the mouth or something. And we've heard of that 4 or 5 times in millions of servings, but it could be. If you think you're having an allergic reaction, stop immediately and see a doctor.
Yeah, good answer.
Okay.
And it's interesting because with the team in my team, about 100,000 people, I too have heard it maybe 4 times. So there you go.
Okay.
That's good. Now, last question is probably a good one to finish on with time. How important is glutathione to total wellness? I think you kind of answered that already the whole talk, but
Yeah, no, it's critical. It's critical because your immune system, how fast your T cells and B cells, which are the assassins of the immune system, you're assaulted by a bacteria or virus. Your immune system goes into work. The bacteria or virus isn't stationary. It's rapidly reproducing. Lots of little babies, right? That fast. How fast your T cells, the assassins that target that virus or bacteria, can reproduce is entirely dependent upon glutathione. So if you have low glutathione levels, the reproduction is slow while the bacteria or virus is fast. Guess who loses? You lose, they win. In COVID, people with high glutathione levels by and large didn't die. Why? Not because of our product by any means, but because glutathione is the protector of the immune system, the sole protector. That's one of 400 functions. When you realize glutathione's impact on oxidative stress, which creates inflammation, and now we know genetic expression that creates inflammation, inflammation is the primary gateway to the onset and progression of nearly every disease state. So yes, glutathione is critical to everything.
beautiful. That's all our questions. There were some others, but they were, as you said, please don't ask medical questions. We can't answer those. Their product isn't designed to treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Okay. I hope you'll come back next week. Bring your friends. This time we call it Connect. Connect with the founder. And we want you to know we love you. We support you. I can't wait to this trip. We're going to be going to Poland and where else? Croatia. And I'll be coming to Greece to do a meeting in Greece. But my real motive is to give Drs. Nikolopoulos big hugs and for us to have a planning time when we can plan. He says our product and technology is such a breakthrough, he believes he can get it published. Now, in publications, they never name what they'll talk about the ingredients and that it was delivered in a water-based nanoform. They will not talk about our product because the publishers will not do that. And he knows that. He's had things published, but he thinks it's already publishable with the results he's already getting. So I can't wait to plan a strategy with him. He's a dear brother. He loves the Lord and just a brilliant, brilliant man.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Steve. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have calls every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time every week. And for the Northern Hemisphere, check with the person who invited you. There's also calls on happening most of the weeks for that part of the world as well. So thank you, Steve, for such an in-depth dive and a great Q&A today. And we'll look forward to